Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to Designing Your Customer Acquisition Path. My name is Michelle Eisenberg, and I'm a program assistant at the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the NASDAQ Center is a nonprofit that's building a better path for entrepreneurs worldwide by improving inclusion, access, and knowledge in entrepreneurship. As you will see in the chat in a moment, the NASDAQ Center provides programs, resources, and exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs across all races, industries, and geographies. So definitely make sure to check out those links and resources in the chat. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First, let us know where you're dialing in from in the chat. And second, we're going to open up for live Q&A at the end of the event. So please make sure to submit your questions for us in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen throughout the presentation, and we'll try our best to get to all of them. All right. Ohio, San Francisco, Orlando, California, Chicago, DC, Maryland, New York. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for dialing in. All right. And of course, none of what we do could be possible at the center without all of the amazing support from our sponsors, including NASDAQ, Lehigh University, Bank of the West, Airbnb, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, Microsoft Entrepreneurship for Positive Impact, BPM, and HubSpot for Startups. We are humbled by their contributions and hope you are grateful too. And so before we get started, I'm just going to launch a couple polls to step back and see how everyone's doing today. And we'll use this information to guide development of our future programming. All right. So this one's going to ask, how are you feeling? Fearful, anxious, surviving, or optimistic? Give everyone a few moments to submit their responses. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, share the results. Looks like optimism is well in the lead, but we do have some feelings of surviving and anxiety. So hopefully we'll address some of those feelings today. I'm going to stop sharing and launch the other poll. What is keeping you up at night? And this just tells us a little bit more about your current entrepreneurial needs. So I'll give everyone a few more moments to submit their answers. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to end the poll, share the results. Looks like sales is in the lead, finance close behind, but we do have some other needs present. So we'll take that into account for our future programming. All right, I'm going to stop sharing that poll. And without any further delay, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our moderator, Paloma Vidgen. She is Women Entrepreneur Segment Leader and VP at Bank of the West. Hand it over to you, Paloma.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning. I was seeing we have people from all over the globe on. Again, my name is Paloma Vidgen, and I work at Bank of the West. Bank of the West has recently joined BMO, making us the 5th largest commercial bank in North America and expanding our footprint from 19 to 32 states. The combined organization offers everything from personal and business banking, commercial banking, wealth management, and capital markets advisory. And at BMO, our mission is to boldly grow the good in business and in life. I have the privilege to lead our Women Entrepreneur segment at Bank of the West, where I get to put together strategies and solutions to help women entrepreneurs as they build and grow their businesses. And today, I'm very excited to be joined by our speaker and woman entrepreneur, Zeenath Kuraisha, to discuss how to design your customer acquisition path. Zeena is the founder and CEO of APACSMA, the leading authority and preeminent online academy for sales training. She helps companies ramp their new sales hires and sales teams to achieve their revenue objectives. Zeena is a veteran sales expert with more than 25 years of experience. She is also a founding fellow of the Institute of Sales Professionals and is a Forbes Virtual Sales Community Leader. She has numerous accolades and recognition from the industry, and including Sales Hacker's 35 Most Influential Women in Sales. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to our special guest, Zeenath Kuraisha, CEO of APACSMA and the E-University for Sales. Welcome, Zeenath.
Hey, hi. Thank you for having me here.
Great. And before we get started, anything else you want to tack onto your bio?
Well, that's all good. Thank you.
I did threaten to say some fun facts. So if you want to add a fun fact for today, to start your morning.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay, I didn't prepare for that one. I prepared for the other stuff.
Okay. We'll move straight into our discussion then.
Yeah, probably I've kind of drove a Lamborghini in 5 different countries.
Wow.
I think that's
That is, just to have driven a Lamborghini, I think, is a fun fact. So 5 countries. That's a great story. I'll have to ask you more about it later. So can you start off telling us about your journey? Again, you've had 25 years in sales. What inspired you to build APACSMA?
Sure. So I've kind of, I don't want to bore you with my career details, but it's basically I started my my very first work was to support a lot of busy sales professionals. And I was home-based and I was supporting all of them in their day-to-days. And then I moved on to a contact center where I was exposed to a lot of different inbound and outbound telemarketing and telesales project. I really loved it because the exposure to different campaigns and styles and programs, that kind of excited me. Moving on, I kind of moved to consulting advisory services, where I've kind of helped a lot of organizations of various sizes implement their internal telesales or telemarketing programs. That's where I found that there was a lot of huge opportunity in there, but kind of moving on and supporting a lot of other corporate enterprises, channel sales organization, inside sales organization, channel partners. I found that there's a huge gap in having a structured sales training program that's industry endorsed. Nobody had that. And I also felt that it was a general training where someone kind of promoted from a sales leader position or a sales manager position coming in and having their own flavors, or there are industry sales training companies that's kind of forcing and enforcing their own sales methodologies and frameworks. So I didn't see a holistic environment giving a holistic education out there, and that wasn't anything sales role specific. Like if you want someone to go in a sales operations role or a customer success role or a BDM role, there wasn't anything sales role based kind of certification that was available. So that's when I found that opportunity, and that's when I kind of started. Started APACSMA. It was more to develop customer focused sales professionals and to also help companies simplify sales processes along the way.
Great. Follow up, just a quick question. I think I know your answer, but would you describe sales as an art or a science?
Both. Both, yeah, because it has to be a balance. Otherwise, it wouldn't work.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I've helped work on rolling out sales training here at the bank. And to your point, when you look through the different programs, everyone has their own model. There's obviously some overlap, but then to really make it apply to your organization, it takes a lot of time if you really want to do it right.
Yeah, exactly. We can even give like a lot of materials and cadence and guidebooks and stuff, but it may not work if there's if the soft skills part is missing, or there's something else in terms of how you handle a particular situation, a customer scenario, or dialogue is missing. So it's a combination of both.
Absolutely. So what sort of businesses are you working with today? And maybe more importantly, what are the sort of businesses that you're having the most success with in helping to create a better sales organization?
Sure. So at least 90 or 80 to 90% of our clients today are tech and SaaS-based companies, while we do serve across all industries. Why so? It's because they kind of typically have inside sales environment or virtual sales requirements, and they kind of work very well with us. We support them very well as well. But we also work with the Singapore government to enable more digital sales talents in the nation. So we're transitioning a lot of traditional sales professionals to more digitally savvy. So in that part, there's a lot of SMB and mid-market organizations coming in as well. So we have a mix of 10 to 20% in that category.
Great. That's really interesting, especially to have the Singaporean government supporting that growth.
Yeah, awesome. Indeed.
So coming from sales and now educating sales professionals and businesses on sales processes, why is it important for any business to create a sustainable and keyword repeatable customer acquisition strategy rooted in their overarching sales strategy?
Sure. So, along the way, I'm sure they will hear a lot of sales buzzwords of customer, like marketing, complex, words like that. So for those of them who probably may not know, so customer acquisition strategy is more about how do you attract your new customer and how do you or prospect in the sense, and how do you attract people, how do you kind of nurture them until they're sales ready and probably convert them, right? So if you think about it, every business require customers for cash flow. That's a bloodline. I mean, it's well known, right? So why do we need to have a sustainable and repeatable process? Because if you have ad hoc and if you don't have a process at all, that's disastrous. But if you have a process and if it's not fixed, and if you don't see you don't have repeating, then your teams will be in all over the place. They don't know what kind of practice they should be following, the process they should be following. For us, we tried a few models, and then when we know that something was giving us that winning proposition, that's when we fixed that, okay, this is what it's going to be like. And then we made it like a cadence that, this is a process that everybody follows, and we're going to measure this and see what kind of results we get. So sometimes you may not get the immediate process in place now, but when you know that this model or process is working, that's when you can kind of put a cadence and make it repeatable. Now, why, if you ask me why, of course, obviously to win more customers and have more revenue. And imagine this, if you have a sales funnel, I'm sure most of us in sales or founders, they should know the sales funnel. And the customer acquisition strategy is the first thing of everything. Imagine if that is not right, everything else is not going to work for you. Right. And then you won't see a proper revenue structure. So that's how it is. So that's important. Yeah. To have something repeatable. Yeah.
Right. Well, and I think that top of funnel, to your point, if you don't have something there, you're never going to be able to get to the bottom of the funnel. But
exactly.
But I think also, I think we sometimes you have to start with a population. You're not going to get that full population through the funnel. So starting broader, working it down to get to that conversion is critical. So thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's talk about an organization and specifically the top of an organization and its founder. As to be expected, the decisions made by founder trickle down to sales and all the other areas of a business. And it's not uncommon that founders, unlike yourself, have limited experience with sales. In your experience working with organizations, what are the key ways founders can position them for success when it comes to sales?
Sure. So founders are mostly or sometimes the creators and innovators behind the great product story, right? And it's natural for, as you said, it's natural for them not to be sales savvy or marketing savvy or be financial savvy. We have different people coming for different things, right? Because when I started, that's how it is. As a business owner, I probably have to understand a lot of different things just to make sure that I work with the individuals or vendors or whoever, or contractors, properly. I should be asking the right question. I should know what they're talking about, to understand the parts and parts of the business. So it's natural for founders to not be sales savvy. Okay, so if and no one is expecting a leader to do the actual sales either. If you hire talents, you hire the people that will do this for you. But at the most, if and as a founder and as the sales leader of the organization, you should set the foundation, a good foundation from the beginning. So sales leadership is important, because if you don't have that in that foundation, then people are not going to be having a very that sales mindset, right? Or to go and actually, oh, we need to build revenue. Like they won't have that, forever they will be in operations mode or developing the product mode kind of thing. And you're never going to get your customers and get your revenue in. So I think it's good, it's important for a sales leader to have that sales leadership mindset, to instill a customer focused sales culture right from the beginning. And I think that's I see success, a lot of success when leaders are involved in the sales process in big opportunities. I do see sales success there. So it's important to create a sales cadence, high performance team that will support you, give them the tools to be successful, a simplified sales process, and anything else that's going to help you generate sales. So I think this is important for a founder, at least at a basic.
Yeah. And I will share, it's funny, we're on our second CEO since I've been at the bank, which is 14 years. And I remember in a meeting, she made the comment, we are all salespeople. We are all ambassadors of selling our product. And that doesn't matter what business you are. And I think that's a really important tone for a leader to set, because, again, you might be talking to your neighbor. You might be, I think the example she used for me, which I always thought was great, was she's getting her hair done and her hairdresser was complaining about online banking. So, I think there's so many opportunities. And so if that sales leader empowers each and every person within that organization, it really can make it so much stronger.
Yeah.
But I think pivoting to the other critical piece for success when it comes to sales and acquisition is marketing, right? And within organizations, marketing and sales teams often operate in silos. And I personally have, I will attribute the success of the program I've created because of my marketing partner. It's funny, we've already talked, I think 3 times today, but we work so in hand. And part of the reason is, we're making sure that marketing's not operating in a silo, sales isn't doing something in a silo, making sure those ideas work together so we can bring forward to our customers the best experience. But that's not always the case. And for some reason, it seems odd, but that's not always even a natural relationship because they typically have different directives. What changes do you see that founders should make when they actually have these people on board to ensure that teams can work together? And what impact can that have on their business operations and results?
Sure. So we're talking in assumption that the founders already have the team in place. And I know of some founders who are still very small and they probably may not have that team in place either. And they're probably doing everything themselves too. So for those people, for those founders who have teams in place, I think one of those important aspects to see is to have the sales person and at least have one marketing person, to start with. If you try to do it yourself to save money, it's going to be, you can do it, but you probably would always be sucked in that. And unless you're really, really good in marketing or sales, so, but otherwise, I think have that team in place because that helped. For me, when I started, similarly, I was trying to save money, but then I know the importance. I know that I was burning out and I immediately put that people in place or even a vendor or contractor in place to support me. Now, talking about how we can make both teams work together. I think, as you said, like a weekly cadence for team meeting to evaluate all the execution, results, the leads, opportunities generated, what's working, what's not working, what are the customer sentiments on the ground, what's the demand that we are hearing, what are our competitors, doing in the field. I think a salesperson would be able to give that kind of information to the marketing team. And the marketing could also take this and see, okay, what are the kind of things that my salespeople would need? What kind of offers or what kind of campaigns I can launch this month to attract an addressable market that has this requirement or a gap, or maybe to mitigate our competitive activity, and so they can come up with a common strategy together, create the tool and content that the sales need to be successful. Rather than we coming up with a theme and then something happens or nothing happens, and then everything else is like not in sync. And so I think having both of them having a weekly cadence to meet regularly to check on the pulse of the business and talk about a common goal that both of them have to achieve. I think that would be a good starting point. And the second one would be to have an integrated process so that, that kind of make them work hand in hand together. And the third thing would be a team goal. What I see a lot of organizations not do is, they have, because everybody has a separate role, job scope, this is what I need to do, they have their own KPI. Sometimes there seems to be a bit of friction there because each of them are on their own chain of thoughts and streams, just to achieve their numbers. But when you have a set team goal, it kind of enforces them to work together to achieve that common goal because their bonus is tied to it. I think a lot of companies miss that part. So I think that would be something that would be good for a start. So yeah, so I think that would be good for them to do that.
Yeah, and I think going beyond, like one step further on that team goal, I also think establish, so yes, set the goal, but also thinking what are those metrics that you want to talk to and check in on those weekly meetings, because let's say it's a new social piece and you want to know, are you getting clicks on, and then is sales able to use that for some way, right? And making sure everyone's clear on those, because I think we've all been in meetings where they've all of a sudden these are the metrics we're focusing on, and no one knew that those were the metrics. So I think that's also critical.
Yeah, and I've worked with organizations where marketing has come out with a particular campaign and none of them knew about it, even the call center. And when customer calls in, nobody had an idea what was going on, and so that was bad. And also a lot of times I think, and I've seen myself, when we have an integrated process. And we have a weekly cadence or stuff like that that's happening where two groups are meeting together regularly. I see the GTM, the go-to-market framework speed up a bit and really go in a very good motion together. So yeah.
Right. No, absolutely. And I did just see a question come through. I think really it comes to the idea of weekly, probably more in-person touch points versus email. And Zeenath, I love your opinion. I think you have to have that in-person connection, whether it be virtual, because, there's things that are going to be missed in email. Yes, report up on metrics, report up on your achievements towards your team goal. But I think that touch points, people are actually communicating, sharing what's working, what's not working. That's where you really get that special sauce.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even if someone cannot go to an office, and if you have team members sitting somewhere else across the wall, then get into a video meeting like this, right? This is perfect enough. So data to support before the meeting, and don't do it there and then get into the meeting and discuss what's working, what's not working, and everything else. Yeah.
No, love that. So continuing on, many organizations struggle to identify their ideal customer profile, sometimes referred to as the ICP, but we'll try to stay away from acronyms. Why is this concept critical for every organization to establish early on, and how do they create this profile? And probably even more important, who should be involved in that process? I'm thinking it's both the groups we just mentioned and maybe some others.
Yeah, okay. So I will kind of come with an example as me again, right, from my organization. When I started, I knew I was already working with a lot of other companies, so I know how they work, in terms of marketing and coming up with their customer profiles and stuff. But some of my team members that I hired, sometimes they may not know what an ideal customer profile is, and it's very natural for someone to think, oh, everybody needs sales. every company needs sales consulting, but that's not how it is, right? Yes, they might, but on the other hand, if you really look at it, there are specific companies that would and would not need. So if you take an enterprise company, they will probably already have their sales enablement team, their sales training organization, sales trainers, right? So what would they need then? So we need to identify that, right? And who would need specifically? Are sales training and sales enablement going to fulfill every requirement that a sales leader would have? Or a sales leader, identifies a market gap and they immediately need someone to address that? Or a soft skills, there's a gap, for some people. Will someone be able to address that? Maybe they need someone specialized to come in to address that needs. On the other hand, if you look at SMB and mid-market, yes, everybody needs training because nobody might not have a sales training organization or structured enablement program, but would they be able to afford your fees? Will they even see the need? Do they hire a lot of people to even have a need for them to do that, right? So there's a lot of innovation comes along the way, but that's another topic. But then again, so when you really look at a ideal customer profile, we kind of look at the kind of companies that will need our services and solution. Where do we see potential fit for our solution or services to address a specific challenge or need or the growth need of company? It could be at a revenue scale, it could be at an employee size, right? It could be at a particular location because someone in America may need it, but maybe not India, or maybe India needs it, but not America, right? So we need to see the location, the size, the typical scenario from an organizational perspective. Now, if you're working with B2C, then you, of course, you look at your consumer and the personas and the kind of demographics that they have. Like, for example, I was telling you about the government program that we have. So one of the role that we need to do is like, okay, so the government typically kind of, for all new hires, they kind of provide 4-month salary funding for Singaporean hires, and they go through any sales certification. That's how it is. So while we think naturally that, sales leaders need to know this, sales training companies, sales trainers and sales enablement leaders get to know this, actually it's not. Actually, their priority is to have training done. And if they already got their internal training, they probably may not see the need for the certifications, right? But on the other hand, they may see it as a conflict, for example. But the sales leaders probably would look at P&L. Oh yeah, if I get 4-month salary funding, that's probably going to help my P&L. But MDs, founders, CEOs kind of help, talking to them helps. And we also kind of added finance directors in there as well, because they are also the key players that they probably would need to know. So what I'm trying to say is sometimes the ideal customer profile may not necessarily be what you think would be like, or who you think would be requiring that solutions or services, but it should be one step further in terms of decision makers, who, what, why. And if you're working with enterprises, this complex sales environment, there's a lot of different personas involved in the buying decision metrics. So you need to kind of look at all those as well. So yeah, I would start with that.
And I would also just say, it's fine if you are a niche, you don't need to try get, to your point, not everyone's going to be a fit. And so being able to narrow it down to a niche and knowing, yes, I'm looking for person or company size X in this market, and this is the type of thing. Like it's I think we've seen, probably Zeenath, between both of us, we've seen the era of someone trying to stretch themselves too thin by going after everyone versus maybe having a stronger targeted focus.
Exactly.
Yeah. So coming back again to marketing, there are a lot of marketing terms that we throw around. Can you speak to the differences between marketing, lead generation, and customer acquisition and the role each of them play in the customer journey?
Sure. So to have it in this most simplest form is about attracting, engaging, converting, delighting them, and growing them. But if you want a longer answer, then I will say, generally marketing is like, they are like, it's broad, right? It can cover anything from advertising to public relations and everything else, or social strategies, and it's more about attracting people to your brand, new white space customers to your brand. Is attraction. So if you look at a customer journey, when you want to buy something, what do you typically do? What's your behavior like? Like how all would you, and what kind of content or stuff that you will do to evaluate your purchase decisions, for example, or to understand more about the product, for example. Then if you talk about lead, and typically marketing has KPIs like followers, leads, pipeline, percentage of new customer share. But if you talk about lead generation, that's a process where you identify and target potential customers to your product, so or services. Like it could be a profiling, it could be telemarketing, it could be a direct marketing, whatever the two. attract the customer, to qualify, to call and qualify them. So typically leads, KPIs, and you can add on later, Paloma. So it's like leads, meetings, conversion, pipelines created, revenues, typical KPIs. So we talk about customer acquisition, again, it's about getting a new potential customer, and if they're not ready, nurturing them and stuff like that, and cost of acquisition is typical KPI now. So if you look at a customer journey, and even if you take yourself, how would you go about into it? You want to buy a fridge, what do you do? So, you kind of, what do you go through, right? Or someone says that you need a fridge. So, and how does that process work, right? So it's basically attracting, engaging, converting, delighting, and growing in that whole customer journey, and looking at customer behaviors and making sure you have, you design your patterns according to how they would typically behave, and provide all that content and evaluation and sense-making kits available for them.
Yeah. And so identify my customer journey. Maybe I have a few different channels that might make sense to drive business. How do I, as a founder, maybe decide which are the best channels? So if I've got maybe 3 options based on a typical customer journey, and maybe I'm like, I only have time for one, how do I figure out which is the best one and the most effective for acquisition?
Sure, I think this is a good one and very necessary discussion, because a lot of us are having a lot of channels and options today, and a lot of our customers are already in digital space. So typically marketing budgets are going to be spent on digital space, but we need to have a mix of all kind of marketing approaches to be successful, and I'll tell you why. So like for us, when we started, so we have offline and online media. So when we started, we were thinking about, okay, so everyone is doing Facebook ads and Google ads and a basic website. So we should start with that. But actually, no, we said, you know what, there's so many people working on this. There's Miller Hyman's, there's Rainmaker, there's Spin, there's Challenger. There's so many people offering, big boys, right? How do you work with them? How do you even say that what you have is better than what they have already providing, right? So it was like, for me, it was more like, in order for me to stand out, because you see, what you are thinking and what you're doing is typically what your competitors are also doing, and everyone is also doing.
Right.
So how do you then challenge and stand out from that, right? Because you're just going to be part of that noise, and how do you stand out? So this was the first thing that we kind of put our brains in at work, and kind of look at, okay, do we go with the social route? Yes, obviously we need to, but where, how, why? And ours was B2B. We served B2B. So LinkedIn is definitely one of those options. And to have a decent website that doesn't look like a sales website, but more like a corporate website, and to make sure that we position ourselves. So we invested in branding, PR, and SEO. Okay, so that's our approach.
Yeah.
Okay, so branding and PR was because basically we had to first make sure the companies know that we are a trusted and quality partner in sales education. And why are we different? So we actually have had to work and earn the trust of the government. Singapore government is one thing, but we also we are partnered with the global associations in sales. And we have our certification endorsed, reviewed and endorsed. So in that way, it's all accredited in that sense, so the credibility, right? And if people don't know what you're doing, nobody's going to come and buy from you. So PR is very important, right, to stand out that story. And then SEO is important because a typical behavior that we see is everyone doing a search first. Right? Even if someone offers you something, the first thing you'll do is open a new tab and search. So we want to make sure that we appear in organic search.
Yeah.
Okay. We also thought about paid search, but I also kind of thought about what if we initially thought of investing, we did invest, but it's a lot of work. And sometimes the leads doesn't, and how you set up that clicks and, to pay is also important. So yeah, so long story short, that's how we invested in. And we do see success in some of the channels that or tactics that we have invested in. And we did not see some of the investment coming back in some of the areas. But yeah, this is the kind of play that we took. And then slowly we kind of invested in some, we played around, we see whether it's working or not. And then we learn from there, and then we kind of further invest on where we think the returns are going to be.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. It was funny too, because like I went through this exercise specific within the bank, but to our what we've been trying to build out to attract women entrepreneurs. And so we took, I think, a little bit a softer approach in some ways. We built out a really robust like content plan. So we've got a great website. You've got a lot of articles that are not about a bank. They're about women entrepreneurs. They're about potential challenges they may be dealing with. And then we're using account-based marketing, which, is newer a little bit for banks anyways. So that's been interesting for us to experiment, because it's the second account-based marketing program we have at the bank, but it's been really great for our channel because we know women entrepreneurs are busy. They're not going to they need some things served up for them. So that's what we've been trying to do. So yeah, it's really interesting. But to take it a step further, you have your established channels with PR, SEO. How do you think about adding new channels? And is there a way to implement them correctly so they don't,
Yes. Yeah, obviously. There'll always be something that's coming in, but always look at where are your audience hanging around.
Yeah.
So that's more important. Yes, it's always nice to do something that everybody is doing, but is it crowded? Is it not? How do you stand out? And are your audience there? Okay. And even if you talk about getting 100 leads versus at least 5 leads in this tactic, that's fine. Right? You can go and get it, right? So you can go and explore. So yeah, and there's a lot of step-by-step guide as well. I know your next question is going to be like, how do you implement this, right? So it's like there's a lot of step-by-step guides there.
Right.
But I would always say look at it, but get someone else to do it for you, because if not, you'll probably bury yourself in there as well.
Absolutely. So pricing is a crucial attribute that future customers consider when choosing between products, services, and companies, right? How might founders assess their current pricing strategy, determine if that model is best being used to help them or maybe is hurting their business? And are there instances where maybe pricing is less important?
Sure. So, okay. So anything that is not giving you a profit is hurting your business, that we know, right? We don't want to provide free services at the end of the day. So it should at least give you a decent profit in that sense. So, and as founders, we do have self-doubts in our pricing strategy always. Are we pricing too high? Is it pricing too low? Are we doing a decent enough pricing, for our efforts and stuff? It's very, very common. And I'm not a pricing strategist myself. And I also struggle with this, because when I see like, oh, my competitors is like, not competitor, but marketplace is actually providing this 2,000 lower. Oh, what do I do? Or someone else is like offering this offer and discount, and like I'm always like looking at, are people able to afford this course or certification, for example? But what I did was I actually kind of factored in a few things myself. What I did was like, okay, first I did a market research. Okay, is this solution a niche or is it a widely available solution? That's the first thing. Someone will pay something more for something that they cannot get anywhere. Right? That's the first thing. Second thing is, what are your competitors charging? Marketplace charging. An enterprise would be able to pay more than an individual. All right. So what are the kind of creative pricing payment options that you can come up with? Obviously, if you were to charge something. Have you factored in the cost of building, managing, and supporting the product? Because a lot of time we don't. We just, okay, this is the price, but actually you need to come out with all this. You got to really see the cost of the product, right? Or services. How many hours is going to take you to build that? or develop that curriculum or content, how many hours is going to cost you for your travel up and down, how many hours is going to like deliver, how many hours you're going to follow up. So this is the entire thing. It's not just 2 days, right? So I'm just coming from my perspective, but a lot of them, when you have a technology product, you're putting in a lot of hours in developing them. There's some stuff that has gone in, but of course, obviously over a period of years where you can break even, obviously, that's a different tone altogether. So the quality that you have applied, and then the value, the profit that you're expecting, the break-even point and threshold point, and how many years you're going to give yourself to break even with that returns, and how would your personas react to the pricing. So all this kind of stuff, right? So, and then we try to apply a formula to make sure that we are not having extreme variations as well. Right. So that's how we came up with our pricing strategy. And then, I think that, so typically that's how someone can look at a pricing. So anything that gives you a decent profit, or at least a profit, even if it's not decent. And then if you're talking about when will pricing be less important, then because for me, it's again, this is something they have to listen to their inner voice. What is of value to you? I came into education, field of education, and it's a passion for me. I love to help people, but sometimes I also feel that I may be giving too much out, but community services, anything that's, pro bono to, whatever that I do to pro bono to community services. Sometimes I want to win a particular logo, so I'm okay with not having a high price there, right? Or maybe I want to win, so I'm able to give. So it's really about the value system, and like student pricing, right? Sometimes I can go without anything as well. So so it really depends on us when a pricing is not of value, of importance at all.
Yeah. And I know I've discussed at a previous event, the idea too, when you go to an enterprise, you really shouldn't be starting with discounting your pricing. If you're going to nudge a little bit, a good place is, and to your exact point, the support, because that might be a place where there is some flexibility there. So, don't sell yourself short. We know too many founders who don't get themselves paid. So.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, right? Because we want all the business, anything that comes our way, but also at what price? Sometimes, the word of mouth also, right? Oh, you can go and try them out. They're only charging this, and then slowly it will spread, and then you got to honor that pricing. So recently HubSpot, like not HubSpot, but a few companies, when they give you some. Since a lot of founders here are SaaS based as well, when they honor a specific pricing, they also get a non-disclosure agreement signed, so that this pricing is only for you and not for others, so you cannot share this with others, so sometimes it's like that, right? So
can you speak to customer acquisition cost and the impact that this metric can have on a founder's overarching marketing and sales strategy? And I think especially if you're just starting out, where you might not have all the data points to look at this, how do you start to derive this metric, especially early on?
Sure. Again, not a marketing lecturer, but so customer acquisition cost, or CAC, is a measurement of how much you have spent to acquire that new customer. Okay, so if you go to an event, you got 5 or 10 leads, that's fine. But if you have invested in an event for 100K and you got 5 to 10 leads, that you divide about that, right? The other way to look at, if you're running a social media campaign and how many customers you've got, but not just the ad spend, right? It's the resources, the labors, and everything else that's gone into the production and the tools. So you take the total cost and you divide by the number of customers that you have actually won and revenue is in, not just leads and pipelines, right? So typically as founders, sometimes we tend to, or in the past, I don't know whether it's still happening today, but we bring our prospects to dinners, like 3 dinner meetings, 3 Starbucks meetings, all that is cost, right? So how do we then keep within there, So so typically that's how it is when you kind of look at this kind of metrics. So look at your total cost, and then look at where you think you can cut down. Maybe you can automate some processes. Maybe you can cut down maybe the first one would be in person, or maybe a virtual, and the second one could be in person. I don't know. So look at your entire process and look at how you could actually contain the cost against what the kind of profit they're going to get overall as well. So, and also if a customer, you retain a particular customer over a period of time, the recurring business, take that into account as well.
No, cost to serve is a huge one, and it can continue to challenge, especially as you grow. I think, especially if you started out very boutique and hand-holding customers, and then you grow, and that time spent is eats up profit and revenue. So,
Yes.
So I think, Zeenath, we've done a really good job of thinking through how we're going to bring in lots and lots of new customers for our founders. But I think one of the most powerful tools, and I think this goes for any size business, are customer advocates, who basically can become huge promoters for us. What are your kind of best practices for enabling customer advocates to make sure, they're spreading word within their communities to maybe people, you didn't even know were a lead opportunity?
Sure. For me, when I started, my main intention and aim was to win my customers, provide the best service,
right?
And best experience. I didn't even think about the referrals and all the other stuff that will come in. I just wanted to make sure that someone trusted me with their requirement, and I want to make sure that I do a good job out of it. And what happened was, they started to tell their subsidiaries or their country folks, and then they tend to like, hey, I'm working with this company, why don't you speak to them? And it happened naturally. Okay. Now, so I think, when we always have that mindset of I want to earn money, I want more business, it's not going to work. Deliver, provide great service. I know it sounds very like, what's so special about it? But I tell you, that works miracles, right? Because the word of mouth, it spreads. And then sometimes I am a very shy person. I don't ask for business, and sometimes when you speak to customers, I think we can ask for referrals. Hey, do you think someone else could benefit from this program or this service? And see what they say, oh yeah, I'm working with someone, maybe I'll get them in touch. Even if they don't have anything, they'll remember, so, and then have a structured referral program in place to make it a point, like when you have already delivered and you know that the customer is really happy, just drop a point and ask them like, hey, let me know if there's anyone else that would need this. Like I work with a student, and she went in and put in our certification into the purchasing system or some internal portal. And then soon we had a lot of registration from the company. We were like wondering how did this happen? Like we're not working with this training department. Then we found out that this person benefited and they had actually. So you never know how this can become a viral, but having a structured referral program also works.
Yeah, no, I agree. So before we turn to live Q&A, I just wanted to ask, if there's one sales practice that every business should be implementing, what would it be?
Yeah, I was trying to be like greedy, right? I think everything is important, but then, if it's only one, I think map out a seamless end-to-end customer experience journey and invest in a sales and marketing technology, or CRM technology, at least. I think that's the basic and foundation of everything. I stole another one more, so I get
Go for it.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, seamless customer experience journey, and have a basic CRM and sales tool, because a lot of founders, they work out of Excel. That's not going to work.
Yeah. So I see one question that came in through chat. This business needs to reduce the length of time of their customer acquisition path. Do you have any suggestions on how to accomplish that?
Can you repeat that question? Sorry, I didn't hear it.
So their current customer acquisition path, it's a longer process. So they're wondering, are there places that they can start to scale down time?
Yeah. So yes, you can. So you probably want to look at the right audience set, but then, okay, so I don't know where in their process, because it could be a 10-step, it could be an 8-step critical processes. I'm not quite sure, but I'm happy to look at what they have if they reach out to me. Because I can talk about this because like in one of our lead generation program, we wanted to actually target customers. We were actually looking at a wrong set of customers. And we were doing a lot of work just to educate them on what we have to offer. But we changed the pattern, and we started looking at companies that would have a need for it and is already like, it's already set for that. So we cut down 4 or 5 steps and like hundreds of calls in that process, and it became a bit more granular. And we also kind of had automated cadence instead of a human following up through looking through every email and task, for them to follow up. We kind of automated it in such a way that it happens naturally. So again, I have to look at the entire process to even see where they can actually make that tweaks and improve the process.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Good, just normal question. What CRM tools do you recommend?
Okay, I don't get commissions for this, but but I can tell you, there's a lot of tools out there, and I always kind of also look at new apps and what this app can provide and all this. But at a basic, I think HubSpot was a good start for me. Because it was DIY, easy enough for me to get started. It kind of have that automation workflows, but I know it's kind of getting expensive every time. But I think their starters could, the starter program could work. They have a bundle which they can have different starters features, which is great. I think MailChimp also has a few addition, from an email marketing automation to something else. Zoho One is good. They have Zoho accounting, the finance features, the marketing features, the sales features. A bit difficult to set up, but once you have it all set up, I think it's great as well. So you can look at them.
So I heard HubSpot, MailChimp, and Zoho, correct?
Yeah, Zoho One, but there's a lot more. You can always look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would also say to business owners, for at least our US business owners, if you have a business banking card with MasterCard, regardless of your bank, there may actually be some benefits to discounts on some of the CRM tools. So check it out. If you have your bank's website can tell you the benefits of your business banking credit card. But I know MasterCard, that's one of the things they like to help with small businesses on.
Yeah, I think so just to add to the point, I think that there's a lot of digital transformation initiatives going on nationally everywhere. So you might want to also look at what are partners and what brands that's available as well. And some of the banks are having tie-ups here.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another good question, what do you mean by seamless customer journey? What are the steps of that journey?
Yeah, for me, I look at a typical customer behavior and the steps involved to start with. It could be a 5-step process. It could be a 3-step process. It could be a 10-step process. How can you make it easy for someone to go through that journey to purchase from you? And when you talk about seamless, make sure it's integrated, right? So I know of a insurance company where, as I told you, like, someone was running something and then nobody knew about it. And then they call a number, it goes to somewhere else. Nobody returns calls. And they talk to someone and someone, it's just a mess, right? So make sure that your customer's journey from step 1 to step 5, how can you make it simple, integrated, think it from their point of view, and look at all the steps involved and the tactics involved and make it easy for them to buy from you. I mean, yeah. it's a generic thing, but it's more to it. I think I can't reply. We got to work on. That's a topic on its own, customer experience journey.
Yeah, Delisa, I see you're saying, could you provide an example of a 5-step seamless customer journey? I think maybe that's a good question to follow up with Zeenath on. Just so we can keep that. So this was a pre-submitted question, which I thought was really good, and you and I were laughing about it. But are there easy tech solutions for technophobic people?
I think technology is going to help a lot of people. Okay, and yes, I understand. Like even we have family members who don't use technology because it's technophobic in a way.
Yeah.
But we have to start doing something. Start with those simple tools that I mentioned, because that will really help you remove that phobia. Because it will kind of give you the step-by-step guidance, and they have guidebooks, videos. So yes, it's a bit difficult, but you got to do it to be successful.
Yeah. Sorry. Thinking through. So, and sorry if I'm butchering this question, but what is the best way to recommend where am I to establish the real needs of my prospective customers?
Where do I establish?
So I think it's really like, if they've identified their prospect, how do they actually know what their needs are? So they know how they're, I guess, acquiring them.
Yeah, I think it's two ways. One is you look at what your solution and services is all about. What kind of challenges or growth needs are you planning to address for your potential market or persona? And then you go after that that customer set, right? But on the other hand, if you don't know what they want, that is probably when you know what you have to offer, but they probably, maybe you're prospecting a white space account and you don't know what their needs are or where their position are. I think it's always it's good to have a dialogue, do market research, of course, obviously. Internet has the stuff, look at their annual reports, look at what they're doing, research them through LinkedIn and stuff like that. Look at there are a lot of tools that's available that shows you what kind of solutions they already have in place. And you can look at, okay, how can I replace this with mine? So you got to do a bit of homework and research. And the other easiest way is, of course, if you get a time to speak to them, or if you meet them in an event, talk to them about, what are their challenges and pain points and growth plans. And I mean, if you earn enough trust for them to even have a dialogue with you, right? So
absolutely. No, I think some people make it overcomplicate it. You really can, like, if you have a prospect and you have some sort of rapport, ask them, how do I make this seamless for you? So yeah.
Yeah, even following a company account in LinkedIn, yeah, and following them and looking at what are the executives talking about, what's the burning issue there, look at all those stuff, and then you probably can hear the sentiments.
Yes. And I will just mention there were a few very specific SEO questions that I'm not going to ask today, but if you do want to follow up, I promise to say to Zeenath's not a marketing expert. She knows a lot about marketing. So we can follow up on that.
And not an agency either, Yeah. Yeah. But I can, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But before we close, I just wanted to ask Zeenath if you could share any final thoughts. I think we've had some great information sharing, but what is that kind of key takeaway you want the audience to leave with?
Sure. I mean, no matter how much I prepare myself, there will be certain answers that never gets passed through, right? Because you're just talking about it. So you see, I won't say that everything is going to be easy. It's definitely take efforts. It definitely takes a lot of homework and practice, investment, sweat, blood on our side, as a founder, So, but I tell you this, it's going to be worth it at the end of the day. And don't try to do everything yourself. Try to invest in talents and resources. You won't regret it. It's going to help you. And that's how you can stay afloat with your strategic objectives and revenues. And you can do bigger things, for yourself. And so I would just say that, if you can't hire someone as yet in a full-time role, get a contractor or a vendor to do it for you. There are a lot of different vendors with different pricing, you can work it out. So yeah, start and see this journey, enjoy this journey, because I don't know, me, I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. So I always think about, hey, what's the next certification, or how can I improve my learning journey, engagement with the student and stuff like that. It's natural for founders to always think about their ideas and solution and products and stuff, but have the team for you to support you, at least the first few initial management support team that you need. Go for it.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you, Zeenath. And I think I would just reiterate, like, you don't know what you don't know. So find those outside resources, because it saves you time and money in the long run, actually. So
Exactly. Because I cannot be everything for everyone. Like, hey Siri, how do I do this? Hey Siri, I'm not that, right? So yeah, get the person. You have Google to help you. You've got a lot of tools that gives you the FYI guide. So the step-by-step guide. Start somewhere.
Well, again, thank you so much. And I'm just going to put in a quick plug. If you don't know much about finance, join us on Thursday because we're going to be talking about cash flow, which I think everyone can agree, cash flow is key to any business. So again, Zeenath, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for the conversation. And Michelle, we'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Zeenath and Paloma. That was such an amazing session. Thank you for taking the time to speak to our community and share all of these amazing insights. It was just an amazing overview. So on behalf of the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center and everyone in attendance today, we sincerely thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you all soon.
And to our audience, we would love for you to join us for our upcoming webinars. You can view them by using the link in the chat. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We look forward to welcoming you back online with us soon.